Hi, and welcome to What's New in Jenkins LTS. Today we're going to be talking about version 2.361.3. My name is Darren Pope. I'm a developer advocate with CloudBees. And along with me on this ride, I have Mark Waite. Mark, how are you doing today?
Great, Darren. How are you?
Good. So here we are at the end of the 361 line.
Right.
At least as far as we know.
Yep.
Should be. Fortunately, no OpenSSL issues. That was a fun week this week. So we're at dot 3. What do we want to talk about? There's not much going on, right? It's just nice, boring thing.
Dot 3 is, as we hope, usually, and this one in particular, is a relatively quiet release. It has a few bug fixes, and that's about it. And that's really how we like the dot 2s and dot 3s to be, is they should be relatively stable.
Well, good. So if people haven't been with us before, can you walk us through what is the difference between Jenkins Weekly and Jenkins LTS?
Sure, you bet. The Jenkins long-term support release is a release that's selected every 12 weeks. A baseline is selected. That baseline version is a weekly version. It's usually a weekly version that's been rated positively by users, relatively current. That baseline version then becomes the basis for a set of initial patches to be sure that any surprises that are in it are fixed. That becomes the baseline.1, so 2.361.1. 4 weeks later, 2.361.2. 4 weeks after that, 2.361.3. That series of 1, 2, and 3 gives users a 12-week period of nice, stable base versions that they can use, knowing that the project is taking good care to be sure that everything that we backport works well.
And that's where we're at now, is at the dot 3.
We are.
So let's take a look at the release notes. I knew what was sort of coming, but I was still shocked because there were just 3 items. That was
right. It is. It's a relatively small thing. So one bug fix that is of interest, and it's like, oh, okay, if I'm using cloud agents, this one could be quite important. And then 2 that are relatively minor user experience improvements.
That's it.
That is it, right? That cloud agents thing is important and useful. If you're using cloud agents and you have the conditions that cause this thing to be exercised, it could be quite important for you because it could exhaust file descriptors.
So define cloud agent here, because
so
that's a very nebulous term.
Okay, and I think in this case it's agents provided by the Amazon EC2 plugin or by the Azure plugins or by the Google plugins that provide access to agents that are hosted on those clouds. Let me do some quick looking just to be sure. It's a good question.
Because when we say cloud, that can mean anything.
Right.
So it makes sense with a file descriptor leak. That doesn't seem like it would be a Kubernetes related. So in this case.
Well, and let me check. Let's see. So it says, no, I think this one could be also.
Oh.
It could have affected because it's the general node. Yes, it definitely, it's describing Kubernetes. So Cloud Agents in this case also includes Kubernetes.
Okay, good. So any ephemeral agent.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Got it. Okay, and then the other 2 were just a couple of UI changes, no big deal. And in fact, what's even better in this case, we can see 1 unhappy right here, that's fine, but 28 happy. So I'm going with the 28.
Well, and you got a hint how bogus the unhappy is. Jenkins-1 means that somebody clicked the cloud icon there, but was too lazy to enter a specific bug report, so they entered 1. Right. And that's not a valid bug report in the sense that Jenkins-1 as a bug report does not affect Jenkins 2.361.3.
Right. Taking a quick look at the upgrade guide, no surprise for 2.361.3, there's no notable changes.
Good.
There's actually very little notable changes, period.
Mm-hmm.
But especially on upgrade, there's none. And that's it for the release. Now, in 4 weeks, which will be in the U.S. at least the week after Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
That's the next plan, right?
Yes, so Jenkins 2.375.1 is scheduled for release November the 30th. And so Wednesday, November the 30th, so you and I will meet December the 1st, and we'll talk about what's in it.
Are you bringing your Santa hat? We have to be ready.
Exactly. We have to bring all sorts of holiday joy.
Wait, that being said, does that mean we have another release in December?
It would, except usually the Jenkins project acknowledges that releasing something right in the middle of the holidays at the end of the year is a bad choice. And so usually they'll ask to delay it 2 or 3 weeks. And I'll actually be sending the email shortly, probably today, suggesting we consider not releasing December 27th or 28th, whatever the day would be, because most people are not going to be available to help with it.
No. Okay. Good. Now, it could happen, but it probably isn't.
Right.
Now, there is one other thing that is going to be happening, and we need to get into this. The board and officer elections is getting ready to come up, or the elections are getting ready to open. Much like in the U.S., the elections are in full steam right now. But what about the Jenkins part of this?
So every year, the Jenkins project reelects 5 officers. Those 5 officers include the events officer, the documentation officer, the release officer, the security officer, and the infrastructure officer. Those 5 elected positions come through this election. In addition to the 5 officers, 2 of the 5 members of the board are rotated out every year. So board terms are for 2 years. So every year, 2 members of the board rotate out. This year, Gavin Mogan and Evelina Wilkos will be stepping down as members of the board, and we're looking for 2 new members of the Jenkins governing board.
Now, what does somebody have to do in order to get nominated? And if they were to end up on the governing board, what does that really mean?
So the governance board meets twice a week, or every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
fortnightly.
Yeah, that's much too obscure for a non-US or non-UK based audience. So every 2 weeks, every 2 weeks the governance board meets. Meetings take from 30 minutes to an hour. Governance topics include things like license agreements and assuring that the project is making progress, being sure that we run elections on the right time, that if there are any concerns or issues of behavior or code of conduct problems, that they're handled. Governance does a good job of handling those kind of things and watching to see how the project is evolving.
So, 4 phases. Right now we're in phase 1 and 2?
Right, 1 and 2, because we're collecting nominations and we're registering voters.
Okay. Register to vote. I probably should do that.
You should, absolutely.
How do I do that?
Well, so if you scroll a little bit further down on this page, in the voting section, it tells you participation requires that you register an account with community.jenkins.io and that you've made at least 1 contribution before September 1. Now, the definition of contribution, Darren, is quite broad. You clearly match it because you have submitted videos that have been placed on the Jenkins.io website. Those are clearly a contribution. Now, you didn't submit the pull request for those. You didn't submit the code for those, and yet that act makes you a contributor. And the list of candidate contributions below this page, below on the towards the later part of the page, hint all sorts of ways that people contribute. Do you help other people with Jenkins? Ah, yes, you're a contributor. Wait a sec, but there's no visible evidence of that. I didn't prove, right, but you did help a user with Jenkins problems. You are a contributor.
Got it.
So now how do we get you registered? So it says if you're interested in voting, you need to join the Election Voter 2022 group. And so if you click that link.
All right. Do that in a new tab. There we go.
Okay, so notice that this is community.jenkins.io. This is our discourse site. We're very grateful to Discourse for donating it. What you need to do is you need to either log in with your GitHub credentials or create your own sign-in. Either is fine.
Okay, I think I've got my GitHub set up.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, so now you have Logged in. Now in the top right-hand corner, there's a join button.
Okay.
You click that join button. Now the people who join this will in fact be reviewed to be sure, okay, are they a contributor? So if someone came in here who was not a contributor, they might be rejected. In most cases, they'll just be accepted as is.
Understood. So that's it? That's all I have to do?
You have registered to vote.
There you go. It seems like many places could learn how to make this easier. We wish it was that simple. Now, but okay, we're not going to get into politics here. It's not worth it. But I will say, all right, so I'm registered, but then let's go back over to the notes here. What's next? Well, then we have voting.
Correct.
So what do we do there?
What will happen is you'll receive an email at the email address that is registered with that account. So whatever email address your GitHub account registered will receive an email that includes a hyperlink to the voting form. And it's this, in the voting section, the second paragraph tells you about it. You will be sent an invitation to the Condorcet Internet Voting System, CIVS. It's a really cool ranked choice voting system. It allows us to, if there are ties or conflicts, or hey, we say we have to reject candidate one because of some reason, we can find the second preference. So it's a really cool ranked choice voting system we use. Thanks very much to Cornell University for hosting it.
Okay. So now I've registered to vote, and now I wait.
Correct. And then the nomination of candidates, if there are candidates you would like to nominate, there are instructions on this page that tell you how to nominate a candidate. And it's basically you send a message to through the nomination page on community.jenkins.io. And it's very simple to do. They will gather and collect those nominees, vet them with the governing board to be sure there are no nominees that are flawed, bogus, ineligible, etc. And then they'll put them up onto the ballot.
Got it. Then we do the election, and then we get results.
That's correct.
Pretty straightforward. Okay, so we're waiting on that. But something's finished.
Oh, yes. Actually, something has finished. The month of October is finished, and since the month of October has finished, Hacktoberfest has finished.
Yep. And this year, I registered. That's as far as I got.
Oh! Well, now you do know that Hacktoberfest this year would have allowed non-code contributions to even count.
Yeah, but that just feels wrong to me.
Okay.
Since I've done code in the past, it's like, that's my baseline. It's like, I just didn't get to it this year.
Fair enough, and I understand.
Okay, so let's go through this just a little bit.
Yeah, so in terms of Hacktoberfest and the benefits to the Jenkins project for Hacktoberfest, we've been really impressed. This year was absolutely top-notch performance in terms of how Hacktoberfest went. As an example, we've got an initiative going in the Jenkins project to reduce the risk of certain cross-site scripting vulnerabilities that can be injected into JavaScript. And the reduction of that risk is by using a technique where we extract JavaScript out of inline and put it into separate files, and then eventually we'll enable content security policy. That content security policy change, before we can implement it, we have to sweep through the most popular plugins and be sure they're ready for it. And so the security team has done that. As part of Hacktoberfest, they went through and prepared a series of proposed tickets saying, hey, fix this, fix this, fix this. And we received quite a number of those as submitted fixes during the month of October. As an example, the Git plugin received 2 or 3 fixes for this. Well done, very nicely handled by the Hacktoberfest submitters.
All right. Improving a plugin tutorial?
Yes, Darren, that's you and me. That's us, man. That was a great one. Over a year ago, right? Exactly. For Hacktoberfest 2021, we did a 5-part video series. That 5-part video series is now partitioned and sliced up into a many-part improve a plugin tutorial on the Jenkins website. And we've had many positive comments from new contributors saying, hey, thanks for doing that because it made it easy to understand what I can do. And we received a lot of really good submissions based on exactly those instructions.
Wow. So let me take us off the beaten path here for just a second.
Okay.
What kind of contributions did we really get?
So give you some examples.
Yeah.
We received contributions that were proposing to increase the spot bugs level of checks. So looking at static analysis to say, oh, do we have this class of bugs in the thing? And what they did was they dialed up the checks, increased the level of the checks, and so that future pull requests cannot introduce new problems nearly as easily. So spot bugs improvements. We received improvements proposing to increase the minimum Jenkins version that's required. We received others that updated the parent POM, thus giving access to new features and new capabilities. So all sorts of modernization activities that really help the plugin suite. And with 1,800 plus plugins, there is always room to modernize something.
Yep. Now, what about helping new contributors?
So this was a non-code case where if you watch in the chat channels, you'll see questions coming in from someone who is completely unrecognized, never seen this name before, don't know who they are. They say, I'd like to help out. Here, I'm trying this, I have this problem, and others would help them out, give them hints, pointers, suggestions. Worked really well.
And docs and language translation, that pretty much speaks for itself, right?
This
Or
one
no?
actually has a really fun story to tell. So,
Okay.
Darren, I want you to open up a tab to jenkins.io because
I can do that.
when we look at this, all right, in the documentation tab under developer, the developer guide, I don't know if you remember the old way it looked, but
Yeah.
the old way it had was on the left was this never-ending list of content, and it had no collapse, no expand, nothing. Now that thing is much tighter and focused on the thing you're looking at. Now if you click the Improve a Plugin tutorial on the right-hand side, that now takes us into it, and now we can navigate there. Now if you scroll the left down, so it's notice that it expanded there.
Right down here.
And we've got those kind of things. Chris Stern, one of our Google Summer of Code organization admins, submitted this change. I was not sure that this was feasible, and I intentionally had noted this was not a great choice for a first-time contributor. But Chris is not a first-time contributor. And that experience led Chris to find a way to help us in this way so the layout is much more usable.
Cool. So that was the docs magic.
That was the docs magic, and there were several others in docs. And then language translations, we've had several new additions to the crowd-in translation service so that we get easy ways for people who are language speakers. Maybe you're fluent in Hungarian or you speak Polish very comfortably. You can help with the translations without even having to do a GitHub commit.
Right. Okay. And obviously, much more was done as well. So
Much more.
So contribution numbers.
Right, and this is a fun one to see. Comparing October of 2021 to October of 2022, there were 10 to 15% more pull requests in 2022, over 1,100, with 117 unique contributors, and 500 plus of those were validated, merged, and credited towards someone's Hacktoberfest. With, of the total contributors, 42 of them completed their entire Hacktoberfest requirement just on the Jenkins project. So that means those people each did at least 4 pull requests, each one of them.
Wow. That's great.
It is. We're really pleased. Grateful to Jean-Marc Masson for his work on leading this and for the advocacy and outreach. Thank you for doing weekly live streams with him. That was a lot of fun.
Now we have one more story.
And this one for me is a very specific thing that happened. Okay, one of the things we had hoped was that there might be someone in this Hacktoberfest period who would adopt a plugin. Adopting a plugin is not really an immediate first-time user thing. Usually you submit 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 pull requests, you get comfortable with it, and after that you say, I want to adopt it. Well, Martin Pokorny, one of our Czech users, submitted his first pull request, and then from that first pull request got involved to the point where 12 pull requests, and created 80 issues to track progress on this plugin and said, hey, I'm going to adopt this plugin. Martin has modernized the plugin, added tests to the plugin. His focus professionally is on testing, not on software development, not on development per se, but on testing. And he's brought his passion for test into this thing to help make sure that the plugin is better tested. It's a lot of fun to watch how his interest and his personal enthusiasm for a particular thing is being met by and helping him grow professionally in maintaining this plugin.
That's great. Martin, thanks for all that work that you did. I mean, Lockable Resources, that's a pretty big plugin.
It is, and it's a very popular plugin, right? So Martin adopted a plugin that has hundreds of thousands of users, and he's doing very good work exploring it. And this taught us, hey, there are times when new contributors need somewhere where they can ask a question. They need a place where they can discuss with others and say, I think I should do this way. So new contributors, we need to be sure they're not left just solo. They need to be paired with somebody or with a group that will help them.
Yep. So that's the wrap-up of Hacktoberfest 2022. Mm-hmm. I can only assume that Jenkins will be taking part in 2023. Maybe this time I will. I should this time. Just, time got away. So, and speaking of time getting away, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. So we'll be back in 4 weeks. That should be December 1st, assuming no slippage. Right? Should be fine. With 375. If you haven't been looking at the release notes between 361 and 375, there's quite a few things that are going to be different. Mm-hmm. And I expect a few backports too, coming back into 375.
Usually we have backports. Thus far, the feedback on 375 is pretty positive, but we can expect a few backports. It's the nature of the LTS process.
That's how we do it. So with that, we will be back in 4 weeks. And until then, if you're in the U.S., by the way, happy Thanksgiving, because it'll be after then. Mm-hmm. And maybe we'll have Christmas lights up. Probably not, but maybe. We'll see. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And if you don't mind, give us a thumbs up before you leave. And thanks for watching till the end, and have a great rest of your day.